Alright, so I wasn't even going to do this video, but I figured I would check on this because I heard a rumor, right? Or actually, I saw a video, it wasn't a rumor, about this pentagram here. Let's see if we can see it. I'm not sure what angle you have to hit to see it, but it's there. And it wasn't glow, it's about 10 till 5 in the morning. This is Red Dead Redemption 2. And this didn't start glowing until I killed a goat. I'm trying to get to where I can see that pentagram properly. There's a pentagram there. It's underneath that floorboard. It just disappeared. Night or the morning just came. Anyways, there's a pentagram there. I'm sure you can YouTube search that and see that pentagram there. At 5 in the morning it disappears, we know that. So I'm walking around this trail because I remembered this from a video and I was like, I wonder if that's there or if that guy modded that in, because it was a guy on YouTube that I saw it. So there's the dead goat, by the way. I jump on my horse, I'm just going to ride on out. Just for some reason, I decided to check this game out. So I jump on my horse and earlier I decided to check the game out. And I'm just going to ride out down through here. I go by this guy, he cocks up and says something about the devil being in me. That dude right there. And I go here and I hear this goat bleeding or whatever you would call it. You know, he's bah, making his, and I shoot him with a bow and arrow about right here.
Whoa, easy.
And then I go back to that building, and I'll go back here quickly. For those of you that play the game, you can check it out yourself. And this is the building that it shows up in. This place is dangerous. This Butcher's Creek. These people are crazy. I mean, it don't take much for them to start shooting at you. But anyways, there's a pentagram there. And if you look real close, you see that hatchet floating there? That's telling you, I think it's telling you that in the programming of the game that there's something there. It's just, if you play video games, you get to know the glitches and stuff. When you walk up to it, it should fall if I touch it. Yeah, see? Alright, so it's just indicating that there's something there in the code, and that's what made me think, that's what made me even come out here, and I was out here at midnight trying to find that. Nothing happened till I killed the goat, put it on my horse, and brought it back here. And I was covering cult symbolism in video games and how Melusina is on your coffee cup, your Starbucks cup, and that's a siren. That's a consort of a fallen angel, and how that really translates into everything that we see, especially in the last 30 years. Even it goes back even farther than that, but especially in the last 30 years of the entertainment industry. I mean, not only is it in music, and you know, I don't have to name the names, but Billie Eilish quickly comes to mind. I mean, she had 666 million followers, 66.6 million followers on Twitter or whatever for how long? I mean, she just stopped right at that number and stopped adding people just for instance. Okay? Anyways, we're going to take a ride because there's something else I want to show you over here. Anyway, I might just fast travel there. Anyways, like, so for me, I'm an Xer, Gen X. I was almost a millennial, not far from being a millennial. So, in about 2001, there was this movie called Donnie Darko that came out that Richard Kelly wrote and directed. I believe that's his name, Richard Kelly, if I'm remembering correctly. So, anyways, it comes out in 2001. It's based on in 1980. The setting is 1988, and I can't remember what state he's supposed to be in the United States. And most of you probably, at least some of you have seen it, I'm sure. But anyways, when it came out at the time, it was largely misunderstood, and everybody was like, hey man, that just is really a weird movie, and they didn't quite understand what it was about. And even I watched it and said the same thing back then. Like I said, it was back in 2001. I don't think a lot of people understood it, but as I started paying attention to secret sects and societies and what they believe and started researching religion and stuff, I realized what was going on in that movie to a certain extent. I'm by no means an expert. But basically it starts with Donnie Darko's knocked off his bike, right? It starts off, he starts out and he was asleep or passed out or had sleep. Had a sleepwalking bout, and anyways, but obviously he's riding a bicycle. He wakes up on the road in the morning. It's like 6 in the morning. He wakes up on the road. His bicycle's like he crashed there, just fell over there, and that's how the movie starts. And as it goes into the movie, his life and stuff, and his life going through school, and how he's a bit misunderstood, and he don't really, he's trying to find himself in society and stuff. And one of his teachers is a lady who she seems to represent the Christian narrative on things, okay? Like there's a right way and a wrong way. There's a right way and a wrong way to do everything, and it results in, fruitful or unfruitful choices. And I can't remember the verbiage she uses, but she and Donnie Darko actually debate that. Where, like, life and death. She says those two paths. There's just life and death. There's fruitful and unfruitful. And Patrick Swayze represents some kind of Christian mainstream in that, but I'll get to that a little bit later. It's really inconsequential. Anyways, Donnie Darko says, no, life's not that simple. I mean, she asked him to answer a question or something, and he kind of takes over the room at that point. And it's been a while since I watched the movie, but she's asking him to answer the question about which side does the choice of black or white, right or wrong, fall. She's asking him to answer a question about a wallet being found and whether you take the money back to the guy that owned the wallet. And he argues with her and he says it's a stupid concept because there's much more options available, that life's not that cut and dry. It's not just black and white. Blah, blah, blah. And I know this sounds like I'm just blathering on, but you'll understand why I'm discussing this right now in a minute. Anyways, later on, he also meets, okay, the girl shows up. There's always the girl, right? She shows up and she's a new girl in school and, blah, blah, blah. She shows up in the classroom and the teacher tells them, long story short, well, you just go ahead and sit down by the boy that you think's the cutest. And she walks around, looks around, and she ends up sitting by Donnie Darko. So that starts their kind of like high school romance type thing. And that's the object of Donnie Darko's affection in the movie, is that woman. Okay, this is like, from a storyteller standpoint, this is like, and this will make more sense in a minute. From a storyteller standpoint, this woman, that's God's will for Donnie Darko's life. He's supposed to walk this way, he's supposed to talk this way, he's supposed to meet the girl, and he's supposed to just settle for this way of life and stuff, right? Okay, well, the movie gets weird because a rabbit wakes him up in the middle of the night, and it's a man in a rabbit suit named Frank, and he tells him he's going to die in 28 days. And I'm going to really cut to the chase here, okay? Later on, you find out that Frank is really just a figment of Donnie's imagination, and actually, it's a part of who Donnie Darko is, but it's actually a demon, a daimonion talking to Donnie Darko using this guy in a rabbit suit. But it's actually a part of Donnie Darko's psyche. It's part of him, okay? It's like a choice that he makes in the movie who he's going to be, and that'll make more sense in a minute. So, long story short, okay, Donnie starts seeing things, and he sees these, he sees what looks like almost like a giant worm type thing that's like silver or translucent in color. It's like it's coming out of people's bodies, and they're following this. It's like a line. It's a plug. They're following like a cord. People are following this cord, and this is their life. It's their life being played out before them. That it's symbolizing that they don't have a choice in life. They are made, they're born to die, and this cord that attached to them, they follow it. They don't even see it. Only Donnie sees it, and they're following it. It's like a thread that's pulling them through life, and they don't have any choice in the decision. That's their lot in life. And if you read Ecclesiastes 12:6 in the Bible, Ecclesiastes 12:6. Just read verse 12 for context, or read chapter 12 for context. But it's in verse 6 where Paul talks about Paul, the apostle to the Gentiles, talks about how, I'm going the wrong way, get carried away. He talks about how serve God before the silver cord is severed and the golden bowl broken. The golden bowl is your body. The silver cord is your soul's connection that connects, because you are a spirit being that possesses a soul that attaches to this body, okay? So the golden bowl being the body, the silver cord is the soul that attaches your spirit. And what Paul's referring to is once that silver cord is severed, your spirit's going to return to God. And he's saying serve God in your youth before you get old and life gets hard, and you know, before you figure out what you need to. Paul's basically saying in conclusion, be smarter in your youth, and don't just give your youth away to anything, and pay attention to God and serve God, because when life gets hard, you're going to come looking for real answers, and it's better to have the answers in your youth instead of finding them out when you're old, because that makes your life that much harder when it starts getting hard, when your body starts getting old and worn out, and you don't understand a lot of things that are going on around you, because life comes at you fast. Anyways, Donnie's seeing this cord, okay? And he's seeing how people don't seem to have a choice. They're following this cord in that movie. And he's been presented with a Christian theology that there's right and wrong, and you always do right, and that's just it, that's that, and that's as simple as life is. And he's bucking on that idea because he's saying life's not that simple. And when he finds a wallet after he has the conversation with his teacher. He finds the wallet on the street, and he picks it up, or actually on the sidewalk, and he picks it up and smiles. And to my knowledge, I think that's the only other time they show the wallet. But the symbology is he's finding his own path at that point, because he and his teacher was arguing about the wallet and how it's bigger than just right and wrong whether you return the money. So that's a symbology that he's finding his own path now. And long story short, he goes to a party. Okay, here's where we get to the crux of it. Donnie goes to a party, or it's a party at his mom and dad's house while his mom and dad are away. I can't remember which. But he goes to a party, okay? And he starts seeing this silver cord again. And all of a sudden, while this silver cord is there, and I'm blown by a lot of that's in the movie, all of a sudden, through that silver cord, it shows his face, and his face distorts. And when he distorts there, and I'll get to this later, when he distorts there, that's symbology that Donnie Darko has actually, he's seeing extra dimensionally at that point, and I'll illustrate this to you later. And it's Richard Kelly figured this out, the director. He learned it somewhere, and I don't know where. I can't say where, but anyways, that time's fractured. And it's like looking through, like if you bust the glass on your iPhone, let's say you bust the glass on your iPhone, okay, well let's say some of the pieces of that fractured glass, it's still attached to your iPhone, it's just cracked. Well, some of the pieces of that cracked glass would be like a magnifying glass, and some of it wouldn't be. So imagine that some of the pieces are a magnifying glass, so they're magnifying things bigger, and then things are also smaller inside the screen on your iPhone that you cracked. And this is just, that's what it looks like right before you die when your silver cord is severed. You're gonna see that before you pass from this earth. And then, unless you go like lights out fast. In your passing, you'll understand what I'm talking about. I can illustrate it later. In symbology, Donnie Darko at that moment is dying. That girl that's the only thing he cares about, she shows up, okay? And they take off from that party. And then they go to an underground like basement, like a cellar that his teacher had, who wrote a book that she's got a theory on, you know, time, space, and what's it all about, blah, blah, blah. And he finds out that she's a teacher that's there, but that's just part of the subplot. I don't want to get bogged down into that right now. Anyways, he goes to that teacher's cellar. That teacher in symbology is like the mother goddess anyways, you know, as the wise teacher, the third phase of the, she's the third phase of the triple goddess, you know, virgin, then mother, and then wise warrior or counselor to the wise warrior, the one that she prepares.
Slow now.
she prepares the Christ figure or the people to accept the Christ figure. Anyways, long story short, the symbology that Donnie Darko's dying. He goes to this cellar. He's in the underworld. That's symbology for Inanna's descent. And if you can read Inanna's descent if you haven't read it. It's all about Inanna going to the underworld and being trapped there. It's literally hell, Sheol that she's talking about. And she's trapped there. And then she realized nobody mourns her on Earth, especially her husband Demuzin, who's a farmer. He just moves on with his life. She's trapped down there, and in effect, she's dead, right? So she gets mad about that, and she finds a way to trap him down there, and she traps his body. She traps him in hell while she goes free. But anyways, let's get back to Donnie Darko. Okay, so he takes off. He's in this cellar. Then he's attacked, and the screenplays go on. He's attacked by some bullies or whatever, which... Long story short, what it equals out to is they come outside that cellar, and that girl gets ran over by the car, and Frank, the guy in the rabbit outfit, is the guy driving the car. That symbology is that Donnie decided to sacrifice what he loved most on this earth, and then he becomes an ascended master. He completes the great work. Like Aleister Crowley, like Satanists argue to this day about whether Aleister Crowley, completed the great work and transcended this reality into the new reality and became an ascended master, so to speak. And basically, that's the story. And to further illustrate that, the feel-good start at the end of the movie. Basically, Donnie Darko transcends. That's what it's all about. At the end of the movie, he ends up back in his bed. An airplane motor falls through his house. Yeah, it sounds weird. Airplane motor falls through his house, and he dies. That's symbolizing his transcendence, because before he took her body in a car up to the street, and he's looking at his house, and there's a storm and like a funnel cloud above his house. Anyways, when that jet motor falls and kills him in his room, he's got a smile on his face and stuff, and he's completed the great work at that point. And I'm at the wrong place. He's completed the great work at that point. And he sacrificed her to do it. It's a movie about sacrifice. That's what it's about. It's about ritual sacrifice. That's what the movie Donnie Darko is about. This kid finally figures it out. And it's all about ritual sacrifice so he can move on to the next phase of his life as ascending to godhood, basically. That's what the movie's about. But anyways, like going back to this pentagram and stuff, and I said all that to talk about how that's when really you saw the entertainment world start attacking the mainstream view of, what's socially acceptable. The secret cults start letting stuff out like this, and I don't know if I made any sense with that at all. I don't know if you guys follow me at all, but if you watch that film again, you'll see what I'm talking about in that movie. Now you're open. I've opened your eyes to it. So if you watch the movie again, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Just remember that Frank is an aspect of Donnie Darko's personality that's being accessed by a demon.
Zero.
Anyways, you saw the pentagram. Let's get back on target here. I blathered on about that. Let's get back to this. Now, I showed you the pentagram. And this is all about... This video is all about the cult symbology in video games and abroad. And like I said, I was even talking about Donnie Darko because about when the symbology started, or when I noticed it anyway. Was it 2001? That's when they really started getting attacked. And the theaters changed then, because back in the mid-90s, a movie would run in a theater for about a year. And about that time, after The Silence of the Lambs came out, it changed. And then movies would only stay in the theater for maybe a few months after that. You would be lucky if they lasted a few months, and that's the world that we all live in today as far as movies. A couple months and they're over, right? A movie runs a couple months in the theater and it's over. Well, they used to run for over a year. I mean, they would run for a long time. And anyways, this is their religion. When I was talking about Donnie Darko and all that stuff, and I don't know if I made heads or tails of it to you or not, because I'm running through this trying to play this game at the same time, but that's their religion. that they're ascending to godhood. It is root race theory. Helena Blavatsky, Annie Besant, and Alice Bailey all wrote about this. It's Luciferianism. It's New Age Luciferianism. This giant right here, this is giant remains. You can see that in your lower right screen. This is Red Dead Redemption 2, obviously. The game's a few years old. That's about a 10 or a 12-foot giant right there. And, you know, obviously somebody didn't like him because he's got a pretty serious head wound there. I mean, his skull's cracked pretty good. It looks like there might be what was used to murder him right there broken. I don't know. And did they murder him in his sleep? I don't know, because he's laying here. He could have been cracked on the head and fell and died. Why he's in the cleft of this rock, I don't know. I don't understand that. But their theology is the fourth root race Atlanteans, that 12-footer right there, was from, it's Eros and Psyche, Eros being the god that comes down and mates with a woman. And when he mates with her, she becomes a siren. She becomes something else. She becomes infected. And that's Melusina on your coffee cup, okay? This demigod right here would be the offspring that they talk about in Genesis chapter 6. Now, this is Theosophy's religion. That's a fourth root race Atlantean. A regular human being is a third root race, like they call them mud people, like how it talks about in the Bible about how Adam came from the dust of the earth. You're, in effect, if you claim to be 100% human, you're a mud duck. You're a mud person, okay? You came from the ground. An Atlantean, a fourth root race, is a mixed, they're stardust and you're a mud duck. His father is a star being, a light being, or an ascended master, whatever you want to call him, that's his father. His father came from the stars. Those who from the heavens which came, I think Zechariah Sitchin translated the Anunnaki. So basically, an Anunnaki god is his father by theosophy, from what Helena Blavatsky wrote about and believed. And he was fourth root race, okay? Now, when Noah's flood happened, that wiped the fourth root race out. The Atlanteans died. And even you can read in Vedic text and all that, they would talk about how they even made chimeras. And this is in the Bible, too. They talk about how they mixed the species. They made chimeras and stuff, and they were judged for having pride before God and before the God. So God judged Atlantis. It fell into the ocean, right? Well, that's another knockoff of Noah's flood. And this is the symbology here is what I was talking about. I wanted to further illustrate to anyone paying attention that this is their religion. The hierarchy now has come into place to where they show it in mainstream right there. I mean, that's there it is. That's what Hitler was looking for. This guy's tech. He was looking for the Atlantean fourth root race tech, and it gets traced back to even Zoroastrianism, but it's older than that. And I'll show you what I mean by Zoroastrianism here in a minute. But I wanted to show you that giant. He's an Atlantean. He was wiped out. Okay, and they even go back as far as to talk about, like, if you have Rh negative blood, for instance. You're Rhesus negative, and they named Rhesus negative after a monkey. They say it's not after a monkey, but it is after a monkey. But it does not mean that you came from a monkey like an evolution, and they'll even admit that. It doesn't have anything to do with you coming from a monkey. Okay, I just showed you the giant. Now I'm going to show you something else. It has nothing to do with you coming from a monkey. It just means you don't have a D antigen in your blood. If you're positive, you have the D antigen. You've tested positive for the D antigen. If you're Rh positive, if you're Rh negative, you do not have the D antigen. And there's some kind of, it doesn't fit. And this is why it doesn't back evolution, because a mother can actually die from having a positive, like let's say she's got an AB positive baby and she's got Rh negative blood. If that baby's blood or anything from that baby gets in her stream while she's carrying it, she can die from it. It'll attack her. The baby's positive blood will actually attack her negative blood. Okay? But that's another long story. But it's something that you need to be aware of about Rh negative blood. And they say that Rh negative blood, I think it's type O negative with the Basques around France, the Basque people. They say there's a large concentration of Rh negative blood there, and I believe it's type O negative is the type. Now, if you look here, you don't really see that much. But if you can see that bird up there, all right, that's where we're headed. Now, some people think that's a sundial, but I don't believe that is a sundial. Now I just showed you the giant. That was a Nephilim back there, the offspring, Genesis chapter 6, right? Now, if you're familiar with St. Peter's Square, St. Peter's Basilica, where they brought in that, I can't remember if it's from Alexandria or Egypt or not, but there's an obelisk in St. Peter's Basilica. And the Pope and the Vatican say, oh, well, they exorcised all the demons out of it, and it's just fine. And it's right there in St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, okay? That represents the obelisk. That's a phallic symbol, and that circle represents a womb. That's Osiris's phallus, and that is what would be Semiramis's womb from the Bible. But it's Isis's womb and Osiris's phallic symbol, and what that symbolizes in is a god being incarnated through a woman, which would be Horus in Egyptian theology. The womb is Isis, the phallic symbol is Osiris, and the baby that comes, the reincarnation of this god or the incarnation of this god, because Nimrod Osiris transcended to godhood, and then they're coming back. They completed the great work. Do you understand what I'm saying? They completed that great work. They ascended. They made their name great like Aleister Crowley tried to do. He completed the great work, and now he's being reborn, and this figure is going to lead you somewhere, and he's going to lead you somewhere you don't want to go. And then in biblical terms, this would be Nimrod's phallic symbol. That would be Semiramis's womb, and it's a prophecy of Horus, and the prophecy of Horus is on your dollar bill. I mean, I'm sure if you just Google Tom Horn dollar bill prophecy, and Tom Horn talks about it, there's been plenty of people that have talked about this prophecy being on your dollar bill, and it's Freemason roots, okay? I mean, it's right there. It's right there. Now, that's not a sundial, people. These arrows point to, I guess, the five cities or the 5 major population centers that are on this game. There's something about a map or whatever, but I'm just showing you this to show you their symbology and how rampant it runs in these games, because people act like this doesn't exist. Everything you see that comes from mainstream is cultic. This is their ideology. They're pushing their ideology right into mainstream now, and I mean, it's in everything now. And that's basically why I wanted to show you that. And that's not all of it. I mean, we're going to go down this mountain, and I'm going to show you something else. But that pentagram being on the game is, I mean, to see that, to where you actually got to bring a goat sacrifice to see that, that's something that, it's no doubt, it's clear, we're not talking about Luciferianism. We're not talking about theosophy. We're talking about outright Satanism. And there's supposed to be a curse on Butcher's Creek where that pentagram shows up, and some people might say, well, that's just a Wiccan protection spell because those people are cursed back there. But I mean, that's rough to take. That's not easily accepted. If you're paying attention to what's going on around you, it's ridiculous. But so, I mean, what religion are you seeing? I'm asking you. What in society, in the movies that you see, when you have the cult symbolism explained to you, and you can sit back for yourself, make up your own mind. What do you think you're seeing? What do you think that pentagram means and that phallic symbol that's in Rome? I mean, there's an obelisk in St. Peter's Basilica at the Vatican, okay? There's an obelisk there in a circular structure, and I just showed that to you on that mountain. That's a phallic symbol and a womb, just like the Washington Monument. It's 666 feet tall, 555 if you count from the ground up, but it goes into the ground 666 feet, they say. And they're supposed to have, like, literally 2 chambers that would be like your testicles.
Whoa, none of that.
I better gear up. There's 2 chambers below it that are like your testicles that have some kind of cult Freemason books or something in them. That's what's told. And anyways, like the Capitol building's the dome, that's the womb, and the Washington Monument would be...
Okay, girl, let's go.
She's a little skittish. It's an Arabian.
Let's get.
this horse is, so I might get bucked, whatever. Anyways, that's the symbologies right there at the White House. It's at the Vatican, it's at the White House, the dome and the obelisk, the womb and the phallic symbol, okay? It's all there. You make of it what you want to, but I mean, it's prevalent in video games, and people, you start talking about this and people say they're crazy. You try to tell them, well, there's a siren on your coffee cup, and there's 3 Vovs on that Monster Energy drink in your hand, and that's the number 666, okay? It's a Hebrew Vov, that's a 6. It's 666, Monster Energy, the monster, the beast. Aleister Crowley called himself the Therion, which is the beast. I mean, that translates beast. He's calling himself a beast. You're literally drinking a Monster Energy drink that's a beast, okay? Now, this is supposed to be a native burial ground, right? Okay, you're going to see the Zoroastrianism here in a second, okay? All right, it's called a sky burial, but it's actually excarnation, which means you would set your loved ones or relatives out. This would be a burial site, and you would set your loved ones or relatives out. It's called a Dhamma or a drama or something like that in Zoroastrianism, but it's way older than Zoroastrianism. You see those like beds up there, those elevated beds, like, okay, let's say mom and dad died. You set mom and dad up there, and you're giving them over to excarnation, which means the elements are going to devour their flesh and stuff like that. And in sky burial, they specifically say that it's a vulture or a carrion or some kind of bird that would kill them, and then that will not kill them, that would eat the flesh off of their bones, and whatever bones were left that weren't scattered, you would bury somewhere. There would be like a burial or a central place like this in the center here would be where they would bury the bones, or what's left would be right in the center there. And it's Aryan. The Aryans started in the area of Persia. You're talking about Assyria and Babylon in that area, and that's where Hitler thought he was going to find this hidden 4th root race Atlantean tech, okay? This is what they're all tracing back to this. That's the connection between UFOs and this ancient stuff. You see this ancient stuff and you think fighting with sticks and stones, and maybe you got a bow and arrow or a spear if you're lucky. The Atlanteans had some amazing technology, if what's told is to be believed, right? I mean, stop and think about that for a second. And it's easy to overlook this down here, and it's always those feathers there. I have no idea what they represent. I'm not even going to make it up. I don't know. But if you notice right here, you see that's an olive there, or a bullhead, and that can represent Hathor. It can represent many things. I mean, when I did the Dying Light video on that Silas box, if you go back and look, or if you play Dying Light, you'll see on that Silas box it looks like almost the same thing. A cherub in the Bible can translate to that. I mean, people have associated with Satan, the adversary, they've associated him with that kind of symbology of being an ox. But they also associate God El as being, El Elyon as being the divine creator, as being an ox too. I mean, that you see that in Sol Invictus worship and in the Mithras that started in Arianism, which is basically the sky burial could go back as far as that, if not farther. The cult of Mithra is the oldest cult on the earth, okay? And there is so much symbology, there's no way I could cover it. But if you Google Mark Flynn, he does a pretty good job of covering that on another program of someone else's. But it's on YouTube. You can YouTube search it and find it. Just YouTube search Mark Flynn. He covers it fairly well. I mean, there's so much to cover. I mean, you got to spend months, if not years, researching it. But anyways, the Aryan stuff, it's all about bringing forth this 5th Aryan race, which is post-human. You're talking about a post-human race. That's what theosophy is all about. And there's a sky burial there. And notice how the native Indian stuff is right around this area. We're going to go over here too and check this out. Sometimes it gets dangerous here. And I know I'm blabbering on, and I guarantee that some of this is hard to follow. But basically, just take the meat, leave the bones. What I'm trying to show you here is the cult symbolism in all these games. So if you don't walk like they walk, if you don't talk like they talk, if you don't believe what they believe, you're not going to get anywhere in this world. This is all secret sect cult belief system. I mean, this is what they'll live and die believing it. This is it. this is where they came from. And they lie to you and they push atheistic beliefs on you. They want you to be an atheist. They don't want you to believe in anything, so you're malleable in their hand. And like I said, I just did this video. I'm not trying to do anything special here. I just did this video here to show you guys how much cult mysticism is in these games. I mean, your world is absolutely loaded with cult mysticism that you walk by every single day and don't even realize. You don't even know what you're looking at until you've studied it, and it doesn't take long to figure it out once you start looking at it. The pieces start going together. I don't even know what to make of this. This looks to me like somebody sacrificed a goat here. See that goat head? It looks to me like somebody sacrificed a goat here to put a curse on their enemies. And those heads there, like this would represent or embody an Indian curse. And those might be the white people that he scalped for taking his land. I don't know. That's purely conjecture. I have no idea what that sigil is to this. I mean, it's beyond me. I don't know what to tell you. I understand the root race theory and all that, but when it comes to their spells and stuff that they would do and the curses they put on people, that's my best guess here. And obviously you can see the blood in the middle. They probably put somebody on that, like a pike. I'm assuming. I don't know. I have no idea. But you can see the symbolism. I showed you the pen. Okay, now ask yourself this. I showed you all of that to say this. Ask yourself why that's in this video game. Why does that pentagram only show up when I kill the goat and bring the goat to that Butcher's Creek shack? Why does that pentagram start illuminating into the ground, or from the ground, underneath that shack? Why? Why is it there? If you're making a video game, are you going to put that in your video game about the Wild West? I mean, this video game's, and the karma system, again, if you look at the bottom bar there, you see the good little cowboy. The white represents, you know, I'm a good little cowboy. And the red represents that you're a bad guy. And even in the game, as this is the character John Marston. He's in the epilogue. This is the aftermath. He's one of the gang members that was in Arthur Morgan's gang, and as you're playing through, when you first start this game in the storyline, you're Arthur Morgan, and you decide his path, whether it's going to be good or bad, and the symbology and the screenplays and stuff are even, if you're bad, then it's a wolf. If you're good, then Arthur sees a deer when he's, you know, thinking about, you know, when they're dramatizing through the game, okay? And that's what the game's about, good and evil, black and white, supposedly. And you know, they're postulating that there's a way out if you're paying attention. Do you see? You don't have to choose. You don't have to, like with Donnie Darko in that movie, that symbology. Donnie didn't have to choose his teacher's black or white, right or wrong path, walk this way, talk this way, and that's how they viewed Christianity in that movie. Donnie's saying, no, the world's bigger than that, life's bigger than that. I'm going to follow this ascended master path. And what he does is, by killing his would-be girlfriend, which in my opinion, that was God's path for his life. You know, he meets the girl at high school, and when the aspect of his personality murders her when he goes into that cellar, which he's basically, he trapped her in the underworld in that movie. She's in the underworld and she's dead. And at the end of the movie, her character, I can't remember the actress's name, but she shows up. And that's so, oh, okay, well, Donnie's dead and this movie don't make any sense, but it's got a happy ending because she's still alive. She talks to a boy there on the side of the street, and they're staring at Donnie Darko's house, and the jet engine had fallen in the house, and some kid died there. But notice, if you notice, her hair's different. That's not her. That's just another girl. That's not supposed to be her, but they use that actress to make you feel good about the end of the movie. We talked about playing roles. And how they're hypocrites that play roles in this society, because that's part of your job. If you give in to Freemasonry and you're going to do something, you want to do something big with your life, let's say you're talented, let's say you're a great actor or an actress, you give in to this secret sex society, you're going to be asked to play a role. You're going to be asked to sell your soul for 30 pieces of silver. And that means that you're going to be playing a role. Whatever they tell you to do, you're going to do. How they tell you to act, you're going to act. and there's going to be a lot of symbology to it. You're going to play what they want you to play. It's just like when I quoted Augustus Caesar, which is Octavian. When I quoted him before, when he said, and I'm probably paraphrasing, I don't know if I'll get the quote right, but he says something to the effect of, have I played the role well? Then when I leave, applaud. And that's his quote from back, around Jesus Christ. They actually, Augustus Caesar, Octavian, fulfilled prophecy, Micah 5:2, because he ordered a census when he was Roman emperor. He ordered a census, and that's what brought Mary and Joseph back to Bethlehem for Jesus to be born in Bethlehem. They were ordered to go back home so they could be counted in the census. So they're on their way back home, and Jesus is born in a manger, and that's the story about the Bethlehem star and all that. If I'm not careful, I'm going to get bucked. That's the story about the Bethlehem star, and I know you guys have heard the story about the 3 wise men that brought frankincense, myrrh, and gold to the manger where Jesus Christ was born. Those 3 wise men were following the Bethlehem star that came over where he was being born, where Jesus Christ was being born. That whole story, he was born in Bethlehem, that's because Caesar Octavian, Augustus Caesar, ordered a census to be done. And I mean, and it's you could get lost down a rabbit hole very easily, but I just wanted to show you the symbology in this game. And when I was talking about Donnie Darko, just back to 2001 in those movies, because I remember that being a real cult movie at the time, and almost nobody, at least in my clique, who I ran with, I was 20 years old back then, 22 years old. And the movie was largely misunderstood until later on. Then people, after they were exposed for 15 years from 2000, after 9/11 happened, people started paying more attention. They started listening to people like William Cooper, Bill Cooper. They were listening to Phil Schneider's story about aliens and stuff, and that made them start really pursuing the theology of the cult societies that run the world, and especially Freemasonry, because Freemasonry controls the United States. The prophecy of their god Horus being born's on your dollar bill. And anyways, after that, which was the kickoff of the New World Order, in my opinion, I mean, you had the Patriot Act coming in where they're restricting and spying on their own citizens here in the United States. You got that ex-judge Neil Napolitano on Fox News talking about 17 attempts after 9/11 happened, after 2001. There were 17 attempts to bust terrorists that the FBI instigated and went in, and it was actually the FBI started the plots. That they talked people into doing these things, and they made 17 mainstream arrests, but it was all contrived. I mean, anyways, it's all about subjugating the masses to have a caste system, and it's a kleptocracy that's going to be. The coming technocracy, you got to have the kleptocracy to build the technocracy. Now they've got all the technology where they want it. So what they want to do is lock their places in, and then the coming new age, the golden age that this theosophy is bringing about, they'll solely have control of everything. Anyways, long story short, let's not get lost down that rabbit hole. I wanted to show you the symbology, like the Monster Energy drink, the 666. The 3 Vavs on the Monster Energy drink. That's you're drinking. Yeah, that's the monster. That's the Therion. That's in symbology. That's paying homage to this Antichrist figure, who the Bible says is going to be known by a number 666, 666. And like how the Apple computer, the first offering for a laptop or a desktop from Apple computers, and it's an apple with a bite taken. I mean, it symbolizes the Garden of Eden, where Eve was deceived into taking the apple. It symbolizes that, because it's an apple with a bite taken out of it, that you woke up, your eye, you eat this and your eyes will be open. Well, the price tag to the entry level desktop that Apple first came out with was $666. And when they do this, when you see these signs like this, like Melusina on the Starbucks cup, the Nike swoosh, the goddess of victory on the shoe, like the caduceus, okay, it used to be an Asclepius, which was one serpent going up a pole, and that represented healing, like you see and like hospitals and on doctors' vests and stuff like that. Well, now it's a caduceus. It's 2 snakes up a pole. That represents Apollo. That represents Hermes, the god of commerce and thieves and pawnbrokers. It's symbology of the son of Satan. You see it in the world is rampant with it. So I just wanted to do this video to corroborate what I was saying before, what I blathered on that Dying Light video. I mean, these are two of the more popular video games that you see. And just ask yourself why that cult, why didn't they just tell a Western story? You know, what is that mythology, and what does Satanism and Luciferianism and New Age stuff have to do with a Wild West video game? What does it have to do with it? What do prophecies have to do with a zombie game? What do they have to do with any entertainment? Any product for entertainment purposes? Why is it there? Why is it so prevalent over the last 30 years? And like I said, in my day, it started changing around 2000, 2001. And just ask yourself that question. And if you ever watch Donnie Darko, pay attention and realize that Frank is like an alter ego of Donnie Darko. It's a daimonion leading him down this path to try and get him to choose ascension. And what he does is he trades off God's will for his life to become ascended master and complete his great work, like Aleister Crowley tried to do. You'll see it a little more plainly now if you watch the movie, and you understand that the teacher he's arguing with and gets mad at, who he's debating with, you know, and what exactly the theology is, because that's very pointed debate. There's a reason why they had that. There's a reason why I'm about ready to die. Oh, I'm in trouble. I was a goner. Can't believe I got by with that. Got him in the foot. I'll take it. Anyways, if you pay attention to what they're saying and what you're watching, open your eyes and avail yourself to what you're actually seeing and why this stuff is actually in these video games, and it's in the movies and in the song. Why do you sing the songs, the phrases? Why do they have you say certain things like, you know, money, clothes, hoes, all a brother knows? Why? What are they pushing you to? What's the driving force to that, right? Cream, get the money. Dollar, dollar bill, y'all. Cash rules everything around me. I mean, you sell your soul for 30 pieces of silver. But what drives it? The cult myth, I mean, it's rich. It's rich. But anyways, these video games and stuff are inundated with it, and I just wanted to prove my point. And you know, maybe if you're a game player, if you don't play video games, then you know, you can see what I showed you here. But if you do play, go up to Butcher's Creek and kill that goat and see if that pentagram lights up for you, and ask yourself why it lights up. Ask yourself why you get pushed into transhumanism, into post-humanism, which is actually Hitler's Übermensch. Übermensch doesn't mean Superman. Übermensch means beyond man. Google it. Post-humanism. They want to kill off every aspect of God's creation on this earth in favor of this new Aryan, this fifth root race. It's Luciferianism. That's what you're seeing. And I don't claim, I'm no expert. I'm just showing you the easy things to see. What would you pick up on that I've missed?
Of course.
If you just pay attention. I mean, there's a lot. I'm the village idiot. So, I mean, people can pick up on it. There's a way more experienced and intelligent people out there than I. So, I mean, what would you see now that your eyes are open? Pay attention. Pay attention when you see that stuff. And by the way, I was talking earlier. I promised I'd get back to this. I was talking earlier about how when your silver cord is severed and your golden bowl is broken, and the golden bowl is your body, Ecclesiastes 12:6. The silver cord is your soul attachment to your body on this earth. And Donnie Darko viewed that as almost like entrapment, that it was also God's will for your life. That's why they were following that little worm, that translucent worm. That's the silver cord. They're saying that you're tied to this earth and you're going to do what God tells you to do, and that was God's will for Donnie's life, was that woman. But no, he's going to sacrifice that girl and he's going to ascend, because he wants more out of life than that. He demands better answers than black and white, cut and dry. But anyways, that silver cord, Google It's real Death Note. And you should pull up from Express UK in 2019. There was a woman that died. She died. She says she met Jesus, and I'm not talking about her testimony right now. I'm talking about what happened when she came back. When she came back, they brought her back to life. She wrote down on this piece of paper, it's real. And it's discombobulated. It's all, the way she wrote it is all, it's messed up like she's looking through a broken glass, and half the glass is a magnifying glass, so she's seeing like a real big T, but like the E and the L and, or like the E or something, like it's real. The E and the A would be like smaller, but the L and the R would be big. Like half the glass is like a magnifying glass. There's something about, and you see that in Donnie Darko's eyes at the party when he's standing by the refrigerator, and that girl, his love interest comes to him. And his eyes get bulbous. They pop out of his head like like the dimensions are changing. Okay, that they're telling you right there. Donnie has passed right there. That's what when Frank tells Donnie you're going to die. That's when Donnie dies. That's when his silver cord is severed and he's seeing into the extra dimensional, and he takes her to the underground, that underground cellar where the mother goddess led him to, and he sacrifices her via Frank, who is he's another persona of Donnie Darko in that movie. Frank runs her over with a car after they leave that cellar. That's actually Donnie Darko killing her, and she's taking his place in the underworld so he don't have to go to Sheol or hell to be judged later. He skipped that by giving up what he loved most, by giving up what God gave him on this earth to be and to choose through that path. And he's saying, no, I reject that path. When you watch that movie again, pay attention to what I said. And with that, I'll let you go. I just wanted to show you the cult symbolism that are in these video games. And remember when you're turning that Monster Energy drink up, it's got 666 written on it. Aleister Crowley approved. I mean, that's what Aleister Crowley would drink, right? 666. He called himself the Therion, you know? And he would say, you know, good job, Donnie Darko. You completed the great work. You transcended the earth and became an ascended master. You became more. And that's their whole theology. It's Ubermensch. It's beyond man. And this root race theory is their religion, and they believe that the next step is the fifth root race, Aryan. And that's what Hitler was after, to become Aryans. That's why you hear them talk about how, man, I'm telling you, can't get any peace. You hear Hitler talk about his Aryans. You hear Hitler talk about his Aryans and blonde-haired and blue-eyed, because that represents the you know, if some people with red hair and blonde hair and blue hair, they're thought by these people to come from above, from angel, from the seed of angels. You know, they're stardust and you're mud ducks. You know, they worship blonde-haired and blue-eyed people. Settle down. You're gonna learn today, buddy.
This ain't the girl I know.
Not today, Grotty. Not tomorrow. Not the day after. Alright, anyways. That's why Hitler made that nursery, in effect, to where he was having, you know, the best of the best looking blonde-haired, blue-eyed kids, the best looking blonde-haired young men and women. They were having sex, and they had this huge nursery that Hitler made. It was full of a bunch of babies, but they found out that, you know, the babies were all in there, and they weren't getting any attention, like any motherly attention or anything, because the kids were off. They were going to raise the babies themselves. They were largely in that nursery alone, and those babies died from lack of human contact. Now, you can Google that. That's all well known. But anyways, that was him trying to usher in his race, his Aryan race, because it's believed that Aryans will be blonde-haired, blue-eyed. They'll have telepathic ability. They'll have telekinesis, which is to say they can make things levitate and stuff like that. And that's the fifth root race, Aryan. That's why Aryan is synonymous with blonde hair, blue eyes. And Hitler learned that from U.S. businessmen. That's their religion. That's at the upper echelons, at the top of this Freemasonry. And Well, you know, and you would say, well, how do they talk black people into buying into this ideology? Okay, Jason, there's Freemasons that are black. Well, that's because they believe that Atlanteans are incarnating in Lemurians. That a black person would be a Lemurian too. We're all Lemurians. We're third root race Lemurians if we don't have that stardust blood, that fallen angel blood. Okay. Well, they explain it as, well, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because Atlantean spirits are incarnating inside, you know, black human beings, dark-skinned human beings, all human beings, and they're chosen to help usher us in to this new golden age. And don't worry, when those black people die, their spirit will be reborn as a third eye opened Aryan in 2200, 2300. That black person will become one of them. So that's what they sell these people on, you know? And I always get lost. There was one more thing I wanted to say about that. I always get lost when I start blathering on. Anyways, that's that's how they get black people to follow this theology. The black Freemasons didn't even get near the top, and they start hearing the stories like I'm telling you right now, because this is what's at the top. Up in the upper echelon, this is their religion. This is what they believe. It's Luciferianism. Like I was telling you about how the UN, their publishing company, was Lucis Trust, and like Helena Blavatsky or Alice Bailey, I think it was Alice Bailey, helped found that. Theosophist founded, and Lucius is just another name for Lucifer, and they even self-admitted that it's Lucifer Publishing, that it was probably named after Lucifer. And anyway, I don't want to get down. I just about started about Horton Westcott and their NIV Bible and how they've changed the words of the Bible. But that'll be another story for another day. But they were Luciferians too. So what you have is a hierarchy of people that control the church. They control Christianity in mainstream in the United States. We're talking about the United States here. They do abroad, but let's exclusively talk about the United States, because I covered the religion that you're seeing pushed on you in entertainment. Now, the Christian entertainment realm is also controlled by Freemasons. You go to seminary, you're taught by a Freemason. You see very few people buck on that system, like Charles Lawson from Trinity Baptist in Knoxville, Tennessee. Charles Lawson is not a Freemason. Charles Lawson has bucked on their idea of what he should be preaching. Even though he's 501c3, I still believe he's tax exempt. He says what he wants to say. He's not going to be told. He follows the Holy Spirit. And they get that unholy spirit and that Kundalini spirit in there, and that's where all this prosperity gospel and all that came from. You know, your best self now, your best life now. That's all that comes from that female, from it's actually, you can trace it back to Wadjet in Egypt. It's a Kundalini spirit though. Kundalini means to be yoked. You are being yoked by a female cobra spirit. That's a gold cobra spirit, and that's a long story. It's another long story. That attaches at your spine and comes up over your head like a hood. And when you've achieved that purple enlightenment up here at your head and your third eye is open, that gold cobra has led you there. That is Wadjet. That is the Kundalini spirit. And you are completely prepared, and you're in waiting for this authoritarian male spirit to come upon you, which a lot of people has interpreted to be Python, the divining spirit of the Bible that Apollo is associated with. And now that may be true, but you know, we're getting down a rabbit hole that's huge, and there's a lot of people that have a lot of different ideas about that. But you're talking about two spirits of and they even prophesy. And I could get lost down a rabbit hole and stuff. You see these charismatics prophesying and stuff, and when they like the Bible calls it prophesying in balls. One example of it, prophesying in ball. It means you're prophesying from, yeah, you have prophecy, but you're getting it from an unholy spirit. Well, Kundalini spirit, they have their prophesying spirits as well. These charismatics get lost, and they start buying into this. Well, I have the Holy Spirit because I speak in tongues. That's my proof. Well, that's not your only proof. You need to study what Derek Prince talked about the fruit of the Spirit and the gifts of the Spirit, because the gift of prophecy, that's a gift. You don't work for that, okay? The gift of tongues, that's a gift, and it's to edify the church. If you're standing there, Mocha Loca Shata Yaya, Real Lady Marmalade, well, Christina Aguilera is a prophetess now, right? I mean, she's singing Moulin Rouge, and it sounds like tongues to me. So let's just make her a prophetess. I mean, that you get lost down that trail. That's literally what they do if you follow them. It gets insane. The charismatic crowd, there's a lot of deception in that crowd. Anyways, okay, I'm going down another rabbit hole. I'm tired. You'll have to forgive me if I blathered on and I didn't make much sense. If I was a space case, I'm tired. It's been a long day. But I just wanted to show you their theology and how it translates into modern entertainment today in video games. You see it almost a little bit more in video games now because they're more tied to brainwashing people in movies and music now. So they cover a little bit less of spirituality. You see a little bit more spirituality leak through and bleed through in the video games right now. But even the video games are becoming a brainwashed garbage so bad that they're just dumbing you down. Anyways, I'll leave you with that. And I've talked way too long, and kudos to you if you listen to me for this long. But I hope that I